Hi everyone. By the end of this video, you will understand the basics of US immigration. It's your US Immigration 101 course. These basics will help you understand the immigration path that is suitable for you. It will also help you read and understand the official immigration docs on the US government's website. Remember that obviously everything cannot be covered and these details are still like an overview. There is more nuance to almost everything that I will be talking about in this video. So please, I want you to do your due diligence to refer to the official docs. And if you have any questions for your specific situation, I would strongly advise you to Google further or to get legal advice from an immigration attorney. And before I jump into discussing the specifics of the visa and immigration, let's first understand the basic terminology in the context of US immigration. First, we have a citizen. Citizen is someone who is called an American, someone who has American passport and who can vote in the US elections, someone who can live and work in the US permanently. Next, we cover the term alien, someone who is not a US citizen, someone who is not American. And I know some people find it offensive, but it literally means someone who is foreign or exotic. Next is passport. It is a primary travel document, especially for international travel, and this is issued by the country's government of which you are a citizen. Then the next term that we have is visa. It is usually a stamped page on your passport. It is actually issued by the foreign government of which you are actually not a citizen. And by having a particular visa, you're able to visit, live, work in that country for a set duration. Tourist visa, study visa, employment visa are some types of it. Now, visas are generally categorized into two following types. First, we have is immigrant visa. It's offered on the intention to reside in that country permanently. For example, the IR-1 visa is a marriage-based visa for an alien spouse or partner of a US citizen. The second type of visa is called the non-immigrant visa. This visa is offered on the intention to reside in the country temporarily and head back. For example, the B1, B2 visa is a tourist visa which is valid for 10 years. It allows you to visit the US for 6 months maximum at a stretch. And you cannot do employment or business on this visa while you're in the US. So to summarize, an immigrant visa sets you on the path to US citizenship and it allows you to live, work, travel freely. Whereas the non-immigrant visa are temporary and they come with the travel restrictions, job restrictions, business restrictions, etc. But there's another unofficial class of visa referred to as a dual intent visa. This visa is although a part of non-immigrant visa category, but it offers intent to both reside in the country temporarily and it also allows you to switch your visa to the immigrant visa. For example, the H-1B visa is an employment-based visa. It allows you to work in a specific job domain for a limited duration in the US. And it also allows you to apply for employment-based immigrant visa, which allows you to reside and live in the country permanently. I'll cover it in detail later in the next video. Next term is the green card or the PR card. It's an official travel document issued by the US government to an alien. It gives that individual the status to live and work in the US permanently. It's like a freedom card which allows you to enter in and out of the US but with some conditions. You're able to get this card immediately after you're granted an immigrant visa. And green card allows you to become a US citizen eventually by the process of naturalization. Now, can you guess what a green card holder is? Someone who can work and live in the US permanently, but who is not a US citizen, which means they do not get the US passport and they are not allowed to vote. The next term that we have is country of origin. From the US perspective, it means that the country where the individual was born. So for this video, whenever I say Indians or Chinese, I mean Indians who are born in India and Chinese who are born in China. Then we have the term of legal immigrant, an alien who is currently visiting or living in the US on a valid visa. An illegal immigrant is an alien who illegally entered the US lands, likely from the southern border. Illegals don't have any valid visas and are supposed to be in the US undocumented. Alright, now having said this baseline, let's understand the common visa types. First, we will discuss the F1 visa. It is a non-immigrant visa for international students to study in the US. And there is no limit to how many of them are granted yearly. You're able to not just study on this visa, but also work. You're allowed to work part-time, that is 20 hours per week in a regular school semester. And you're allowed to work 40 hours per week, that is full-time, during summers. Some universities even allow you to take an entire regular semester as a full-time internship semester, along with your summer internship. Once you're graduated, you can work full-time on the same F1 visa for up to 3 years, given that your degree falls under the STEM category. Since our focus of this course is on STEM Masters, it 100% falls into this category. If your degree does not fall into the STEM category, then you can only work up to 1 year full-time once you graduate. Once you start working full-time, you're able to transfer jobs easily from this visa from one company to another. The next visa that we will cover is the O1 visa. It is an employment-based non-immigrant visa for exceptionally skilled people in arts, sciences, tech, etc. Yes, the visa terms will get even more complex further. That is why we set the baseline earlier, and it was very important to set. Now, this visa is generally granted for 3 years and is renewable each year indefinitely. There is no limit to how many of these are granted yearly, similar to F1 visa. Although it's a non-immigrant visa and is not labeled dual intent, people are still able to apply directly to the EB immigrant visa, EB2 or EB1 in this case. US legal immigration laws are filled with loopholes, and people find a way if they really want to. You can switch your jobs on this visa. Your new company will have to file a petition to hire you on this visa. Next, we cover the most famous visa, the H1B visa. It is an EB non-immigrant visa with dual intent for skilled workers. It's initially granted for 3 years and can be renewed for 3 more years. But if in that period, your immigrant visa application is approved, and even though the visa may be granted 50 years later, you are still able to renew your H1B status every few years. Getting H1B initially is based on a lottery system that happens each year. H1B visa has an annual limit of 65,000 visas for the general pool, and it also has an extra 20,000 visas for the advanced degree pool. So, if you have a master's or a PhD, your application goes through 2 lottery pools each year. You can easily switch jobs on this visa, and just like O1 visa, your new company has to file a petition to hire you for H1B. Now let's move on to the L1 visa. It is an employment-based non-immigrant visa with dual intent for skilled workers and managers. It is only available for intra-company transfers from another country to the US. This visa is initially granted for 3 years and it can be renewed for 2 to 4 more years. The catch with this visa is that you cannot switch jobs on this visa. Among all the employment-based visas that we have discussed so far, including the O1, including the H1B, including this one is the most restrictive. We have mentioned employment-based immigrant visas multiple times so far. So now let's actually cover them in detail. As the name says, it's an employee-based immigrant visa. Now this visa has 3 major employment categories. EB1 is for extraordinary ability in a particular field. It is also applicable for outstanding professors and researchers, and also applicable for multinational managers. And then we have EB2. It is for highly skilled workers with an advanced degree or exceptional ability. And the last one is EB3. It is for other skilled workers with a bachelor's or other abilities. Now let's cover the IR visa. It's an immigrant visa for immediate relatives of a US citizen. So let's say if you eventually get married to a US citizen, then this is for you. IR1 is for spouses. There are other IR categories too for unmarried children, parents, orphans, etc. Now, having covered the basics of major visas in the US, let's now go over some general questions based on the things we have discussed above. You might be thinking, how one gets a green card? Basically, once you have been granted an EB or IR visa, that is employment-based visa or the immediate relative visa, you can immediately apply for a green card. And what about becoming a citizen? So if you've got a green card, let's say through IR1, that is through your spouse who is a US citizen, it takes 3 years to be eligible for naturalization process for getting the US citizenship. And in all other cases of getting a green card, you need to maintain your green card status for 5 years to be eligible for the naturalization process of getting the citizenship. And what about your dependents like spouse and children on non-immigrant visa? Each of those visas, including F1, H1B, O1, L1, have provisions to offer dependent visas to your spouse and also children. In some visas, your spouse can actually work with great flexibility in the US and can even do businesses. And what about your parents? Unfortunately, parents do not fall under the dependents category for non-immigrant or immigrant visas. Only if you become a citizen, you can sponsor your parents for green card under the IR5 category, that is the immediate relative category 5. I know this is the most difficult situation, especially for Indians, as we are super close to our parents. Until then, your parents can only visit for 6 months at a stretch in a given 365 rolling days on a tourist visa, that is the B1, B2 visa. And as I said in the beginning, this was an overview and there are so many nuances to the things that we have just discussed. Just to give you an example here, for the F1 visa, there is something called OPT. And OPT is something that allows you to do internships and work full time in the US. But honestly, it does not matter at this stage as you're simply understanding your dreams and deciding if the US can be a right fit. You can worry about all these nuances while applying or even once you get an admit. And I will be covering all of this in the post-admit course for Masters in the US. Now to quickly summarize, in this video we learned there are restrictions on the non-immigrant visas, and in case of L1 visa you cannot even switch companies. We also learned about even stricter restrictions on your parents, as you can only sponsor them once you yourself become a citizen of the US. In the next video, I will be sharing some common paths for people who immigrate from India and China to the US in detail. This is important and will further give you a reality check. I'll see you there. Peace out.